Hi everyone, welcome to Abundant Life Podcast. My name is Patrick, and in this season, we want to put spotlight on founders, change makers, and leaders. Together, we want to explore stories of hope, stories of change, and stories that show a deep commitment to justice. Justice for people affected by sexual exploitation here in our context, El Alto, Bolivia. Hi, welcome to this episode. Today, we will be talking with Andrea Baker, one of the persons that try to bring change for our context, especially in terms of sexual exploitation. This podcast is called Abundant Life. And Andrea, you ready to start?
Sure thing.
Sweet. I think for the audience to know where we at, could you tell us where we at right now?
We're at my house in Bolivia.
Sweet.
Yep, outside of La Paz.
First question. How did you get here?
To Bolivia.
To Bolivia, this place?
Whew. I did a first volunteer service trip to Bolivia when I was 18.
Wow.
In 1994. And I fell in love with Bolivia. My family had traveled a lot, or my parents had traveled a lot when I was a kid, but I don't know, for me it was a bit of a wake-up call coming to Bolivia, and I don't know, I just loved it.
Wow. Was that the first time for you outside of
Wasn't the first time, but I think it was the first time that I noticed differences. Yeah.
And at what point did you then decide to say, okay, I have to come back, or something is calling me, maybe?
Yeah, well, I loved Bolivia. I was younger and I kind of like threw myself into the whole trip, and I made some really great friends, and I loved meeting the people, and I really loved what I saw in Bolivians in particular. Like there was such a simplicity and humility, and genuine kindness, despite having a lot, which was kind of different from what I had experienced growing up, and so I was really impressed by that. And, I kind of said, like, "I have to go back to Bolivia someday." So I came back a couple years later, and I don't know, like, even though I had traveled a little bit more, then I still had a special place in my heart for Bolivia. But I never expected to come back to live. So I think eventually when all the stars aligned to come back in 2001 with my husband. But that was never actually a plan, or, I mean, it was a desire, but I never expected it to happen the way it did.
That's so interesting. So 2001 with your husband, is there maybe a story or a specific moment where the two of you made that decision? Of course, you said when the stars aligned, but
Yeah, so let's see. My husband and I had been dating the whole time that I had come to visit Bolivia. And at one point, I had said to him, I don't know if I should marry you or if I should go back to Bolivia, because it felt like they were two very separate realities. And then over the course of time, I studied in seminary, and I was really drawn to what's called an incarnational model of mission, which was a new idea for me, but basically an idea of missions from the inside out. And so I was really drawn to that idea instead of it being an us and them model, and more privileged people are coming to help the poor people. I don't know, like it was let's live among the people and learn from them and like grow something together. And I was so intrigued by this idea, and I asked my professor who is doing this kind of work, and he mentioned a mission agency that we were familiar with, and we met with them. And when we first met with them, they were already established in Peru and wanted to be able to maintain connection and community, but expand a little bit further. And so that was Bolivia. And so when I was in that first meeting with them, and Andy was with me, my husband, they said, "Yeah, we're thinking about opening a field in Bolivia."
Wow.
And that's kind of when all the things came together for me. So this was in maybe 2000,
Here.
or 99, I don't even remember. But I just broke in that meeting and I said, "You have no idea how much I love Bolivia."
Oh.
Um, and so then from there, we started praying and felt like there were a number of pieces that just kind of all were pointing to, yes, this is a good thing to try out. So,
I know what you mean now with the stars align.
yeah.
Did that feel like, of course, at least from my point of view, it's a start, but did that feel like a full circle type of
No, not
situation?
yet. I mean, we were, I mean, I don't know, like it just all kind of evolved little by little, like first coming to Bolivia in 94, returning in 96, and then deciding in 99, 2000, like, well, that's kind of cool.
Mm.
And so then we came to visit Bolivia together in 2000 and then moved fully in 2001. I feel like it was just all these very small steps
Steps.
leading us. Yeah.
Well, and then you guys arrived, right?
Mhm.
Um, where was the first place you settled or came to?
Yeah, so we purposefully chose to come to El Alto.
Mm.
Um we were working with an urban mission and so, El Alto was like this growing urban monstrosity at the time. I
Yeah.
think back in the day, we were the fastest growing city in Latin America.
Yeah.
So just tons of urbanization and globalization, but also very poor. There was no infrastructure. Um, and El Alto sort of has the same reputation now, but more so then it was known as the place of unrest
Mm.
and change and I don't know, it felt like an edgy urban place to be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. That can have some excitement, right?
Yeah, we loved it. I mean, we would meet with people and ask, like, where would you say not to go? And so, the Ceja, El Alto, those were consistently like places that tourists and um, foreigners shouldn't be. And so we thought that was where we should go. Um,
Arriving in the Alto, is there maybe something beautiful that you specifically remember and something that is maybe not that beautiful?
I mean, I loved our first days in El Alto. We literally stepped off the plane to live in Bolivia with 2 suitcases, and we went straight to an adobe home with an Aymara family.
Mm.
And they didn't even have, a bathroom in their home. They just had a little outhouse outside, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and, the stars were absolutely amazing, like, so many stars and, like, cool air, and I remember there used to be, bells from the church that would ring early in the morning, um, and I don't know, I couldn't believe the life that we were stepping into, but it was beautiful, and I remember our host family being, like, accommodating their whole family to receive us into their home, like, they moved out of their bedroom so we could have their bedroom, and, yeah, they were just so welcoming and hospitable and shared everything they had, and I mean, they're still friends today, and I don't know, I think it was just such an honor to be in their home.
Mm.
Yeah.
It really is what you said before, this model of
Immersion.
thanks yourself into the culture, or into the context. Um, were there some social problematics that you encountered? Which were the first ones?
Oh, yeah. Um, well, we also stayed with the host family while we were going to language school, and, there were a number of problematic things in that family that we encountered. The husband who was clearly, with other women while he was married with his family. There was a very young maid working in the house that didn't even have, like, she didn't even have a room to sleep in. Like, she had a little mattress that didn't even, like, fully extend in the pantry, and that's where she slept. And she was up early, early, 5:30 in the morning, working until late at night, 9 or 10 at night. Um, and I remember, we would try to, like, help wash dishes or help wash clothes or say thank you or even maybe invite her to come eat with us at the table, and all of those things were met with, discomfort and disapproval by the family.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know a bit more about the situation or when you encountered the problematic of sexual exploitation.
Uh, um, I mean, we came to Bolivia really innocent, extremely innocent. Um, I had no context of sexual exploitation at all.
Mm.
Um, I had heard one survivor speak at a conference in 2000, Brenda Myers, and I remember being really impressed and broken and awakened to something. But then moving to Bolivia, I really had no idea. I think the only thing I knew about prostitution was what I saw from Pretty Woman, the movie.
Yeah.
Um, and I really, even in the early days, had no idea the gravity and the suffering that happens. I mean, I think we were pretty naive, walking around. We would walk around the Ceja late at night. We would hang out in the bars. We would, just pray and ask the Lord, like, where should we be? What should we be doing? And eventually we ended up, visiting the brothels. And I think the process of learning for us was over the course of years, just building relationships with women and men in the brothels, and yeah, discovering a whole reality that we didn't know anything about.
Mm. I think for a person who might not be from the context, could you help them understand a bit better how this problem emerges? Maybe culturally or systematically, maybe socially?
Hmm. How does sexual exploitation emerge? Um, and this is only from my experience, okay? So I think it could be different maybe around the world. Here, the majority of women that I know have experienced violence. And a large percentage have experienced violence in childhood, abuse and sexual abuse in childhood.
Mm.
Um, and Bolivia has traditionally been very poor as well. And so there was a question for me for a long time, like, not everybody's, or everybody, if everybody is struggling, or if there's a large percentage of people struggling in poverty, what is it about these women that choose to enter into sexual exploitation or prostitution? And for me, one of the connecting points is the presence of abuse. And so there's already been something broken in her, um, which I think can lead her to make choices that she might not have otherwise. Um, I also have experienced personally, but also have seen on so many levels, a country that favors men.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and not only favors men, but kind of gives men like I don't know what the word is, freedom to, I don't like, how do I say this? Just to act in certain ways. Like, it's just assumed that a man needs this outlet. It's assumed that a man will cheat on you. It's assumed that if he loves you, he hits you as well. I mean, these are all like just accepted realities of, yeah, what life is like for men and what life is like for women. So even in some of the host families that we've stayed in, I mean, it was clear that the daughter was expected to serve the brothers, while the brothers sat at the table and ate comfortably. And all that kind of gets replicated on every different level. So when you're talking about sexuality, that's just assumed that this is what men do and what men need. So I think if you add those two realities together, you just get this, I don't know, like when you go to the red light district, there's hundreds of men sometimes just going in and out and shopping, and that it's just overwhelming the amount of men that are there. Um, but it's just socially acceptable, for the most part, I think. I don't know if it's acceptable or just permitted, but it's just right out in the open like that. I don't know.
That's interesting. Maybe something like very gender conforming social roles that are accepted by everybody, maybe a skewed understanding of what love is and how that's expressed by men, then ultimately is violence though. Maybe
Yes.
in
You
these
know, and like we've
directions.
also seen like, of many different situations, where like it's kind of training ground for men to go to the brothels. So, easily you can see, a young teenager with his father, and this is his introduction to sexuality is in the brothels. Um,
Interesting.
mhm.
Mm, mm. You kind of touched upon it already, but in every social problem or issue, there is a population that benefits and there's a population that doesn't benefit.
Mhm.
Maybe to just make it clear who clearly benefits from this and who clearly doesn't.
Mm. I mean, there's brothel owners, administrators, traffickers who are making a lot of money easily without having to sacrifice much of anything. Clearly, women are suffering. Um, I would say children are also suffering, when you have absent fathers and then the mother is also absent. Um, but my initial reaction is I want to say, men are benefiting in general, and I don't know if that's entirely true either. Um, I think that I think that men who are going to the brothels looking for connection, are also empty and hurting, and I don't know if they're finding that necessarily in the brothels either. Um, yeah, so I say pretty much everybody is hurting, except maybe the traffickers who were benefiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you pointed at the complexity of this. I think there's an easy tendency to say, women are not benefiting, men are benefiting. Of course, on a systematic level, maybe. But what you said on the individual level, there's a sense maybe of emptiness um, or something similar for the men or for whatever reasons that brings them there, right? Um, I want to dig a bit deeper into the complexity of this issue. Specifically when it comes to the response of it. Um, I mean, there are other people that they see this problematic. And I wonder maybe in your time here, have you seen responses or efforts to against it that maybe weren't that beneficial at the end of the day? Um, or maybe from the state or other institutions that was more contradictory than anything else? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was a complex questions. Um, let's see. Trying to think of individually
Mm.
questions. So, unhelpful responses. Let's see. Some unhelpful responses: criticizing, judging women for being there. Um, I think the response of this is what men do and what men need, is also not helpful. the state is pro prostitution or pro sex work, and I can understand I can understand the desire for more safety, more benefits for women, um, equality in certain regards, with sex work being legal. But I don't know if it fully addresses the complexity and the real problems. Um, I've been walking with women in prostitution for over 20 years, and I've met 2 women. I mean, I've met hundreds of women, but I've only met 2 who say, um, they're glad that they are in sex work, that it's where they want to be. The vast majority of women that I have met personally have said, "I would never wanna be here. I don't wanna be here. Get me out of here." Um, and so, yeah, I think if we were going to address this at a deeper, fuller level, it would be providing education and opportunities for women so it doesn't have to be a choice.
For sure. For sure. Hmm. Mm. Is that's what you said? You were in touch with hundreds of women, the majority saying, well, I don't want to be here, maybe, but there's no alternative. Or, yeah, there's no alternative. Did that make you think of, Project Suma? Your response collectively, individually, how to
Yeah.
approach it?
I mean, so Project Suma has evolved as we've evolved understanding this. We started out very admittedly paternalistic, in wanting to help, wanting to do something nice for people, wanting to provide a safe place, but then having time together at the table and like just holding your hand and listening to your story didn't really help
Mm.
the real problem.
Yeah.
And so I was feeling really frustrated that, like, okay, I want to be here to support you and support your family. And there's just, this is not enough. And so from there, okay, so from there, like, I think from the outside, it's easy to look at prostitution maybe as like just financial.
Okay.
So she's in prostitution because she wants money or needs money. And so then if you go to the counter, if you just give her money, that's going to solve the problem, right? So we learned that the hard way that that doesn't work either. Because for a while we did provide, credit and loans and like opportunities to get capital so she could start a business or whatever. And then we kind of started finding like, okay, there's lots of pieces here that aren't fitting together. Um, and she has to actually believe that she's worth more to do something different. She has to really want to do the hard work. Um, and she needs a little bit of support in terms of how to do that. And so that's where we ended up, working on therapy and learning more about what it means to be trauma informed and how to kind of like work through some of those deeper issues of why am I really here? Obviously, there's circumstances that have led me here, but even deeper beyond that, like what is it that I'm believing about myself and the world? And so working to heal some of that, some of those pieces of identity and worth, and then also providing opportunities for growth. But, I just realized like I'm just really privileged to have had parents that modeled confidence and leadership and care for others. And I don't know, like I'm was just privileged to be able to have that kind of as a normal part of our life. And like a lot of our friends have lived in survival mode, in crisis mode, in the middle of chaos. And so some of those soft skills and things that we take for granted, I think, like, are also pieces that we kind of have felt like it would be helpful to grow and develop and teach. And so, yeah, I think it just has evolved little by little to be much more holistic, because it is such a complex problem. And when I compare it to, like, my own change and transformation, like, it just takes a long time to change really unhealthy habits that we've learned from our environments growing up and all of that, and, I think at Suma, we're trying to, like, walk through that transformation process for people that have also, um, experienced a lot more trauma, I guess.
Of course, Project Suma I've known the work of Project Suma, and I've known that there are many success stories, right? Um, but I wonder if there's something beyond the success stories of the individual women that we offer support. Um, so I think my question goes more in the direction, okay, what what does Project Suma do that's so meaningful?
Hmm, okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think we have, hundreds of traditional success stories, of women and children who are free and full and exercising influence and leadership and living the good life, like
Yeah.
what we're seeking. I think that's true for many. I also unexpectedly, well, okay. I also think beyond what we do, I think it's really important who we are
Hmm.
as Suma. Um, and I think that's an unexpected outcome that we've had that not only are we hoping to facilitate change and growth, but that change and growth is happening in us, among us as well. Um, yeah, I think this life of integrity of like I live what I say I believe. And so if I'm looking for abundant life for others, I need to be able to experience that and live it myself.
Hmm. Good one.
Um,
Hmm.
and so I think in Suma, it's been really special to be able to see people come with a desire to serve, but also being challenged to grow and to learn. I think when we work closely together and share life together, there's um, there's going to be tension and conflict and how we respond to that, how we respond to the challenges, how we respond to people aren't acting or changing the way I hope or expect. I think those are all really good lessons for us too. And so, I don't know. I think being able to facilitate a community where we're all growing and we're all learning,
Hmm.
um, survivors and servants, maybe where there's an exchange and we're just seeking to be better together.
Yeah.
Um, and then to see the how that plays out, I think in the context and the culture is really cool too. So from what I've learned, hopefully from what people have experienced and learned, in our community can expand into their own circles of influence and families and communities of faith and neighborhoods and schools and how we raise our kids and how we interact at home. I don't know. I think my hope is that it goes much beyond the helper and the helped, but that we're all kind of growing and influencing beyond.
I love that you said the community where survivors and the ones that try to serve come together, sort of building a synergy. Synergy? between them, and that creates a ripple effect, a multiplication that's beyond that we can maybe describe. I love that. What I love especially about Project Suma is also what you said, that it facilitates for people to come together and seek a change they want to see in their context, seek a change they want to see in the world. I think that's really what Project Suma provides, which is beyond the success stories that the traditional success stories that maybe you guys already know. And I think that's very beautiful, man. I hope other organizations can learn from this. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. We closely coming to the end of our conversation. Very lovely conversation. I have two more questions, if I may.
Okay.
I think in all of this, there should be always a responsibility to act. But who do you think holds responsibility to act to bring change for maybe an alter specifically in the context? Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, I think whenever there's suffering, we all of us have a responsibility to act. I think, I think the how is the question that we get hook caught up in, like, what could I possibly do?
Yeah.
And I think that small changes can bring big results over time. I mean, we just celebrated the month of May, which is the month of mothers. For me, like, how I raise my boys, how we interact at home, I mean, that's a really simple change that will have change, transformation over time. What I do in secret matters, and I think that plays out, in the realities we see in the brothels and on the streets. So, yeah, what I'm looking at on my screen behind closed doors, I mean, that definitely has, an effect in the context that we're working in. Particularly for communities of faith, I think how we address issues of sexuality, how we address issues of abuse, I think that's one area that I feel particularly passionate about right now, in that, our faith is supposed to be a place of hope and of safety, and often it's not. And so, yeah, I want people that are suffering to be able to find safety in a good God.
Mm.
And I think how we are as communities of faith sometimes doesn't facilitate that. Um, and then, of course, raising awareness and working towards change, on a political level, on a cultural level, all of those things matter as well. Those are all important. But I think for me, it starts with how do I perceive this problem? How do I perceive women and men who are in those places? And how does that contribute or not contribute to the problem?
Sure, for sure. Mm. Thanks. Really makes me think. Really makes me think.
What are you thinking, Patrick?
No, it really makes me think what you say about of course, we all have a responsibility to act if we see suffering or oppression, but the specific role of faith communities and the importance of making these communities safe places, which automatically means places of hope. Often they haven't been places of hope because maybe there's a form of discrimination that's been happening based on gender, based on lack of understanding of what sexuality means, or gender problematics that comes with gender-based violence. I think for many people, maybe such communities haven't been places of hope. And I absolutely agree that if you're a person of faith and this is important for you, we also need to work in these parts of facilitating safe spaces. Even though on first sight it doesn't seem directly connected to the situation, but it does on the long term. It does on the long term. So yeah, that's what I was thinking. Brings me to the last question of today's conversation. If there were one thing that you want the listeners to take home with after this conversation, what would it be? And it could be anything. It could be really anything.
Oh, that's a hard question. What would I like you to take home? I think, I wake up almost every day and I read the news, and it's overwhelming. And yeah, I think it's easy to just not know what to do, or to protect, and I don't know, to be able to function in the world and not think about all the problems in the world. I'm just not going to read the news. And I think what I want people to know is that I think wherever there are people suffering, that should matter. And I think it does matter to a lot of people, and I think we just feel so overwhelmed and stuck in terms of knowing what to do. And I think what I want people to know is that even the smallest change in perspective or understanding can go a really long way to bringing long-term change. And so even if it's overwhelming, and even if we don't see results right away, all of those little steps towards change make a major difference for a better world. Yeah.
Thanks. Hugs?
Yes, thank you. I always hate when I have to cry.